everyone, welcome back to my channel, Single Mother by Choice. My name is Martine and Ty, yes, and today I have a special visitor. This is my daughter. I'm going to show everybody. Yeah, she just ate, so she's a touch sleepy, right? Are you sleepy? So she was born on June 16th. Yes, you were. And she came in at 5 pounds, 5 ounces. I originally thought she was 5 pounds, 9 ounces, but I guess I misheard in the delivery room, and I just went with that for a while until I saw it written down that she was 5'5". And she came in at 19 inches. And now we've been back to the doctor, and she was about 7 pounds last time at the doctor. But since then, she's put on a few more pounds, and she's closer to 9 pounds now, based on my home scale. I'm not like using a baby scale. It's like the sort of ratchet way where you like get on the scale yourself and then you take the baby and compare the two weights. So I'm guessing she's about 9 pounds, and she's about 21 inches long right now. So she's made a lot of progress in 7 weeks. And so today I want to share with you her experience in the NICU and just how I dealt with things a little bit. So let's get into the video, right? Are we going to get into the video? She's bored already. All right, let's get started. So because she was born at 34 weeks, baby girl had to go to the NICU, which is the neonatal intensive care unit. So she was able to be on my chest for about a minute, but then, so I got to see her and hold her, but then she had to be whisked off to the intensive care unit for babies. And a few hours after that, I was able to go see her. And it took a few hours because I had the epidural and I had to be able to walk on my own, go to the bathroom, and do certain things before I could head over there. And then once I got to see her, I was able to hold her some more. Even though she was in the incubator, I could take her out for a little bit and then put her back. But not for too long. Eventually, I was able to hold her a lot of the time because she was able to regulate her body temperature, and her vitals were good. So I was able to have her out of the incubator for much longer. And eventually, they had her in an open crib once she was able to show that she could handle room temperature on her own, and her body could regulate the room temperature. So generally, she was very healthy. She had jaundice for a couple of days, but they put her under this blue light for light therapy to help the jaundice go away and help the bilirubin levels go back to normal. And that was pretty much it. The thing that really held her back in the hospital was because, and I guess a lot of preemies go through this, is that developmentally they're not meant to be out of your body. They're meant to be using the amniotic fluid and the umbilical cord to be able to get the nutrients and food that they need. So the reflex to suck and to take in food is not quite strong and not quite fully there. So that was her issue, is that she was able to only take in a certain amount of food before she kind of gave up and was like, I'm done, even though her body actually needed way more calories. And preemies, I learned, actually need a lot more calories initially, just so that they can play catch up basically, and they can develop and thrive as they should. So she was struggling with that, and after a day or two, they actually had to put her on an NG tube, which is a feeding tube. That was really hard for me to watch, first of all, watch them put the feeding tube in, but second of all, just to know that she just wasn't able to thrive on her own just yet in that way. And emotionally too, like I was a wreck. I was tired. I was going back and forth between the hospital and my house. I was there 16 hours sometimes a day, 12 hours to 16 hours a day. I was at the hospital. I was pumping. I was emotional. I was trying to just survive myself. And then watching her with a tube in her nose going down her throat is really tough. And then she pulled it out a couple of times, so they had to put it back in, like I think 4 times throughout the course of our stay there. She pulled out the tube at least 4 times. And so that was difficult. And the people at the hospital, the doctors, the nurses were really kind. They kept reminding me, like, she's not supposed to be here yet. This is normal. Like, she doesn't have the reflex yet. But they're like, it'll literally happen overnight. And she did take her time, because a lot of babies apparently like take to it a little bit sooner, but she took her time. And around 36-ish weeks, she kind of picked up 36 or 37. It must have been 37, because she spent 3 weeks in the hospital. She picked it up, and it was overnight. It literally was one day she's only taking 50% of the food on her own without the assistance of the NG tube. To the next day it was like 100%. It was crazy. Like, it did literally happen overnight. The thing that I also think really helped her was that a couple of the nurses, one of which is Nurse Chanel, who I loved and who loved my baby and was so great. I'm like, I wish I could have you all the time as her nurse. And most of the nurses were really great. But Chanel and another nurse, I can't remember if it was Renee or somebody else, said, like, maybe this nipple is too slow for her and she's working too hard to eat. So let's give her a little bit faster flow of a nipple. And that definitely made a difference. And from that point, maybe 4 or 5 days later is when she was able to fully feed on her own. And we also discovered that a certain position worked best for her. Like, she had to lay sort of on her side to be able to feed, because otherwise she was choking a little bit with the faster flow nipple. So like putting her on her side, using the faster flow nipple definitely helped her a lot. And she was able to feed and come home. Now, since we've been home, it's a whole other set of like issues, but we'll talk about that in another video. And in terms of me, I mean, I was tired, and I'm just so happy that somebody suggested that I take the time to go home and sleep, because I really was ready to be there the whole time. Because the hospital really makes it easy for you to sleep over, and they have showers, they have a place for you to go and eat, a refrigerator, like place to warm up your food. They even have local restaurants a couple of times a week will bring lunch over. So they have so many things there to make it easy for you to stay over. And I did spend a couple of nights there, but it was really important for me to go home, just for my mental sanity. Even though it was really hard for me to leave her there every time, it like killed me. And I often would cry in my car on the way back home, because I'm like, oh, I'm such a horrible mom, I'm leaving her. But I had to go home and shower and eat and rest. And I was pumping a lot, so I just needed to not be pumping at the hospital every single time, and being home, just getting away for a little bit, not from her, but just from being at the hospital all day is just exhausting, mentally, emotionally. It's just really draining. And so it was really important for me to do my best for her. It was important for me to go home at least for a little while to sleep and rest. And after a couple of weeks, towards the end, it became a little bit easier for me to like be kind to myself and say, it's okay, go home, go rest. It became a little bit easier to do. But yeah, overall though, I was okay. I wasn't, after the whole side effects, the symptoms from the epidural, otherwise I was walking. People were like, you just gave birth? It doesn't seem like you just gave birth, because I was just like walking around, like I felt fine. And I think that partly had to do with doing a vaginal birth. I kind of snapped back. Not my body now. Ooh, my body. I've got to lose weight, but that's a whole other video too. But I was able to kind of get my energy back And I think, again, that had to do with me going home and sleeping and resting, because otherwise, you know, it wouldn't have been good. And I think mentally it would have been bad for me. I would have had like a breakdown of some sort. Also, a few days after giving birth, I had to go to my OB's office, and I met with a doctor there. They wanted to make sure, they were saying it's a postpartum checkup, but I'm like, it's been like 6 days at that point. I was like, it's only been a week. But I think they wanted to make sure that I wasn't experiencing postpartum depression, especially since she was in the NICU. So even before I saw the doctor, when I was checking in, you could see that the questions the secretary was asking me was just like checking to see what my mood was and where my head was at. She was asking me just questions like just how I was and just seeing what my responses were. And then I had to fill out a form basically like saying, gauging what my mood was like for the past few days after giving birth. Just they were checking in just to make sure I wasn't depressed or, just not well. So, yeah, that's it. So now you've met baby girl. She's sleeping. So I'm going to go lay her down. And I will see you next time. So with her name, by the way, you notice I keep referring to her as baby girl. With her name, I'm going to make a separate video, but I'm not sure that I'm going to share her name, and I'll tell you why next time. But thank you to all the new subscribers, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with anyone who you think might be interested, and I will see you next time. Bye.